Welcome to Love, Life, and Law of Attraction with Lisa Hayes. This is the place where you'll learn how to find the love of your life and build a life you love.
Seriously, it cracks me up every time I hear that.
Was that kissing in that intro? Was it mwah, mwah, mwah?
It sounds like it, doesn't it? It's awesome. It's like, in case you were snoozing, you are not anymore. You are here with us. This is Lisa, and we are having the most interesting guest today. I mean, I'm slightly partial because Jeannette is my BFF, but Jeannette Maw is the Good Vibe Coach, and she is, I think, not just the Law of Attraction expert, so we are very lucky to have her. And I think Law of Attraction and relationships brings up all kinds of sort of interesting, dicey kind of topics and conversations, so I'm thrilled. But for people who may not, I can't imagine who it would be, but just do it for good measure. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I thought you were going to say we are going to have the most interesting conversation today. When you said guest, I felt a little flattered. But I'm Jeannette Maw, the Good Vibe Coach, and I live and breathe all things to do with manifesting, conscious creation, law of attraction. I like to play in a wide variety of areas, but man, do I get a lot of questions about using creative powers in relationships with other people. And Lisa, you know this stuff better than anyone else I know, so I can't imagine someone more, I was going to say fun, but that's not exactly the word with you. Insightful might be a better description of what it is to tap your brain for this subject. So I'm looking forward to this conversation today. I'm at goodvibeblog.com for anyone who doesn't know me.
Goodvibeblog.com. Excellent. So let's just dive in. I want to start with, because we have kind of a handful of questions that we've tossed back and forth. I had a couple that I pulled out in case we have any extra time today. Let's start with LOA ethics and relationships. Yeah,
let's do.
So I think the question that comes across both of our desks and probably crosses everybody's mind is some variation of how can I use law of attraction to get that guy or that chick? Or is it okay to do that? Like, how do you feel, I know the answer to this question, about law of attraction and attracting a specific partner?
You know, it's hard. When we think about this in a bigger perspective, Lisa, it's hard to imagine places where we don't practice this. My official position is it's not cool. I wrote a blog post recently called The Voodoo I Don't Do, just so that I had a quick link for all the requests that I got from someone asking, how can I use law of attraction to get my ex back, or to get this person interested in me, or this person who's engaged to someone else but really should be with me. But when my official position is, hello, that's not using our powers in the way they were meant to be used. It's much more effective if we just focus on the love or the relationship we want rather than the specific person. And yet, Lisa, I posted, after I published that post, several days later, I kind of was half joking, but not really, on Facebook about how there's a particular person who I put in the number one slot on my fantasy neighbor list. And I didn't mean that because I specifically wanted her to pick up and move and come live next to me, but we do this too when we want to get a job, when there's a boss or an interviewer or a decision maker, and we want them to make a decision in what we believe is our favor. I think there are a lot of ways that we might be practicing this that we might not even realize. And in some areas, it seems okay. It doesn't. But in this one, it's all of a sudden taboo. So I'm really interested in this discussion because I think it's a very gray area.
Do you think it's even possible? Because I have an opinion on this, actually, but I'm going to ask you. Is it even possible, really, to leverage law of attraction to attract a partner that didn't want to be with you in the first place?
Okay. Well, if they were dead set against it, look, I have a lot of evidence about how powerful we are. If there's someone who is not firmly grounded in what they want, they are so easily influenced, it's not funny. Lisa, you've heard me. I practice this all the time when I tell stories about how I used to recognize I was bracing for trouble when I would have a new litter of foster kitties at home, because my boyfriend at the time, he wasn't down with that work. He was not supportive. He would actually get quite irritated with me when I would do it. And I had a new litter of kittens, and I was bracing. I looked at the clock, 3 o'clock. Oh, he'll be home in 2 hours. And I felt my energy just go in the toilet, and I was bracing for the onslaught of his unhappiness with this. And I realized in that I'm co-creating it. So I changed my mind with that awareness. I said, no, that's not what I'm creating. What I'm creating is, and I imagined him being supportive, not because he all of a sudden loves fostering kittens, but because he knows it's important to me, and he supports what makes me happy. So I changed my energy, my expectation, my knowing of him just by, sliding onto some more supportive thoughts. And the guy that came home, instead of opening the door to my office and seeing the kittens and being all huffy and slamming the door and giving me the cold shoulder for 2 days, instead, what he did this time, he opened the door. When he saw the kittens, his face lit up. He smiled. He said, someone's got kittens. He got down on his hands and knees, and he tickled their chin, and he scratched their ears, and he asked me what I named him. I tell you, I did not recognize that guy. Okay. He strikes me as someone who's very easily influenced. He might not have consciously wanted to be supportive of my fostering efforts, but when someone gets plugged in, when someone is focused, when they're using their powers to whatever ends they are, I think they're highly influential.
I think so, too. I think that, it all comes down to the most likely possibilities in the universe, and we're playing with a handful of them at all times. Like, I can see how that is a likely possibility in the universe, or in the multiverse, I would say. Even though it hadn't been the case in the past, it was a path of least resistance. Everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to be happy. Most people want to get on the floor and roll around with kittens, at least for a little while. So
it's not like I was manifesting him going on a suicidal rage or anything. But think of all those stories. Well, okay, I know like 3 stories of people who were like super focused on a celebrity who later went on to marry that celebrity. And they were like, at the time they were nobody. There's no reason to believe they would be on this celebrity's radar. And yet there they were.
I think you want to know why that works, by the way?
Tell me.
Because it's as Gina Gabellini would say, it's the wild hair intention. I will often ask clients to pick a celebrity muse, because you can play with that without the angsty, ridiculous, oh my God, please look at me, energy. Like when somebody's got the hots for a celebrity,
it's just for fun.
It's just for fun. Right.
Unless they're a serious stalker. Yeah.
And then they're going to jail. But
look, I've been on the receiving end of this energy. Do you remember my story about my very first experience with law of attraction? I thought it was a bunch of hooey. Mm-hmm. I only did this because I had a personal rule. So I practiced the scripting. Miracles unfolded. My boyfriend at the time, it's a different boyfriend, watching it happen. The next thing, and I'd been in a dark place. Breakdown, depression, these were not words that were exaggerating my state of mind. With the next day and the entire next week, I was having more sex than I've ever had in my entire life. I was taking the bus home at work. Okay? I was taking the bus home at work. It's not like I'm a big fan of bus rides, but there I was, morning, noon, and night, having sex with my boyfriend. Later in the week, I was like, as I'm taking the bus home after yet another nooner, I'm like, what has gotten into me? This is not like me. What's going on? And I realized he was paying attention to that little scripting thing that I did. He's using law of attraction without even having studied it. But hello, that's how it works. You don't have to be an expert in it to make it work for you, to manifest more sex with me. And you know what I said to him, Lisa? I was a little concerned, frankly. I didn't like the idea that someone could be in charge of me. And I said to him, this isn't ethical. You need to stop that. He thought it was cool. And I said, you keep that up, and here's what could happen. Yeah, you manifest a lot of sex with me. I might be having it with someone else, so I would cool it if I were you, buddy. In hindsight, I'm looking back wondering, why were you ever complaining about that, Jeannette? But what bothered me was the idea that someone else could influence me.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it's happening every day. We're doing it to each other all day long.
Right. But somebody actually, I think in that case, because you know me, I think that he probably was able to tap into or activate something that, again, went with the flow of your feel-good, went with the flow of something that was to your benefit, to your highest joy. I mean, you didn't not like the sex. You didn't like being controlled. And so it's
I like
easier
the
to
thought
tap into
that you're sharing here. I like this thought. I don't want to argue against it.
And I
like the thought that we cannot be manipulated.
You can't be. I don't think you can be manipulated to your detriment. I mean, again, as people, as humans, we're wired towards wanting to feel good. We're wired towards wanting to feel better. So if somebody activates a vibration in me that's leading me towards my feel good, I'm going to follow down that road naturally, instinctively, easily. It's not going to be as easy for somebody to lead me down a path that goes against my best interest.
Well, look, how many times have we seen it unfold, either for ourselves or someone that we're witnessing this happen, where they pull the worst out of us because they expect it or because they're flowing such bad stuff that when we rendezvous with them, we are not at our best. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true.
This is
true.
This is a little bit why I call this kind of voodoo-y. I think this is stuff you want to be very careful about and focus on what we want to feel. Abraham teaches everything we want is only because of how we think we'll feel when we have it. If we focus on that and not get attached to the specifics, I think we're in good shape.
Which is what I say when I get a client or a friend or somebody who's talking about wanting to manifest a specific person. It's like, okay, with some reservation, with some disclaimers, I can get on board for that under one condition, which is that we do use that person as muse energy. That person is activating a desire in you that's really specific, that's making you feel a certain way. You've got a strong something flowing there. So we can focus on that as long as activating the energy feels good, and you keep the door wide open. Because the universe might deliver what you're really looking for, which is not that person. It's these feelings in a different form. If you can't agree to keep the door wide open, then I can't get on board for that work.
You know, that's exactly what Mike Dooley teaches too. He says you can use specifics if it for the vibrational purposes only, not because you need it to look exactly like this, because it's what helps you feel it more strongly than anything else. I agree with you on that, and I think that's really easy for people to lose track of when attachment starts to be part of that vibration. It's easy to fool themselves or to try to wish it away. You were making me...
I think it's the only reason we ever desire anything, by the way, and I always try to explain this, and I never get it right, so you might have to bail me out here. The only reason we ever desire anything is because there's something about that thing that's well crafted enough to move us in the direction of our highest joy. I mean, that is the only purpose of a desire. So if I'm desiring this person, that desire, until it gets to be a sticky attachment, is moving me in the direction of a really strong feel-good, a really high vibing feeling. Like, that is the only reason. All of our desires are perfectly crafted to get us to our highest states.
Right. And I think it's a little bit arrogant of us to think that we know how that's best delivered. Because if I get focused on whether it's a love interest or a job or a home or whatever, if I think this is the best path for my happiness and I discount the bigger picture, universe, whatever you want to call higher power, that knows way more than I do. Like, I might have my eyes set on this guy, and it turns out, you know what, he's still got a thing for an ex. He's never going to be able to fully give his heart to you because he's still hung up on someone else. If universe steered him out of my path because I'm vibrating rich, rewarding, true love, and universe knows he's not your guy, it's crazy for me to think that I know more than higher power does.
Which is why the door's got to stay open.
I agree.
Use the energy. Use the muse, but don't get attached to the person. Use the muse of the car. Use the music lover. Use the music of the house, but don't get attached to the address.